Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and very good morning to everyone. My name is Imran Sardara. I'm a senior research analyst at the Institute of Regional Studies, which is the oldest and well-known think tank in Pakistan, dedicated to the study of the South Asia and Central Asian region. Today, we are going to discuss about the re-emergence of decades-old dispute in the Middle East and the Gulf region, especially at the time when lots of good news coming from Middle East and the Gulf region following the Iran and Saudi rapprochement. So more recently, we have seen the diplomatic ties between Iran and several Gulf and the Arab countries have resumed that show that the entire Middle Eastern politics is transforming from zero-sum game to seemingly positive-sum game. So this has, happened in South Asia as well. Whenever Pakistan and India relations improved in the past, it brought positive energy into the regional politics of South Asia, and the whole region witnessed some development-related breakthroughs. But those moments of all well remain short-lived. Long-standing territorial disputes have always made their way and vitiated the peaceful atmosphere. So I wonder how Middle East and the Gulf region, which are more complex than South Asia, could sustain this positive energy. So why I'm saying because more recently too, disturbing news have recently surfaced in the media. One is about the return of claim and counterclaim politics over the sovereignty of three Persian Gulf islands between Iran and the UAE. And the second one is about the dispute over uh, the ownership of Al-Dorra gas field between the three countries, namely Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. So many scholars argue that the re-emergence of decades-old dispute at the time of reconciliatory atmosphere can overturn the positive energy, as we have seen in the case of South Asia. For others, these developments are not going to potentially disrupt the ongoing peace process in the region. So, to discuss the importance of these disputes, especially the Al-Dura energy dispute and its larger implications for Middle East and the Gulf region, we have invited Dr. Uh, Shigeto Kondo. Is it the right pronunciation?
Yes, it's correct.
So, who is a senior researcher at the Japanese Institute of Middle Eastern Economies Center, the Institute of Energy Economics, Japan. So, thank you, Dr. Kongo, for your time. So, Dr. Kongo is an expert on the political economy of Saudi Arabia and the States, Gulf and Arab states. He received his PhD from Keio University in Tokyo with a focus on the foreign policies of Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. Since joining IEEJ, he has been researching both diplomatic and economic aspects of Saudi Arabia. So, apart from the dispute and its implication, Dr. Kongo, we would be interested to hear from you about the Western and the Chinese politics on this matter, since both are largely, the dependent on energy resources of this region. So, over to you, Dr. Kongo.
Okay, thank you very much, Imran, for your kind introduction. And thank you very much for your institute to invite me to this great opportunity to talk about this very timely and important topics. And it is quite honor to me to focus on this issue because like you have introduced, I'm focusing on the Saudi Arabia's foreign policy. So this issue is one of my interests. So this is very great opportunity. So thank you very much. Okay, so first of all, I would like to briefly talk about this issue, Al-Dorra energy field dispute. Um, so this is followed by some of the points. I have some of the points I want to talk. So yeah, I would like to start with. So first of all, so what is a Al-Dorra energy field dispute? This is a energy field dispute among, especially among Iran and Kuwait, and there have been a long history for that. This field was actually found firstly by Japanese government who operated their oil and gas exploration in the neutral area between Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. The company name is Arabian Oil Company. This is a Japanese company, and they found it in the offshore of the neutral area. Then, compared to other oil and gas field in the neutral area, this field is relatively small and hard to explorate because this is remote from the land area. So there have been a quite long time since actors start to explorate this field. But the things has changed gradually since 2000. And in 2000, there happened the dispute between Kuwait and Iran. And at that point, Iran expressed its will to explorate this oil field. But in the creative perspective, this dollar energy field is inside the Kuwaiti maritime territory. So Kuwait threatened Iran that if Iran do not stop its drilling activity, Kuwait will um, uh, raise this issue in the international arena, such as the United Nations or everywhere. So then Iran stopped its drilling activities. But the situation remained silent since then, but the things has again changing 20 years later. So now is that timing. Actually, the things has gradually changing from last year. Um, so last year's March, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait concluded the agreement to develop or exploit this dollar gas field jointly, and they confirmed that this field is inside the neutral territory between Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. So, and they understand that this gas field is solely depends um, inside the Saudi and Kuwait territory. But at this moment, Iran strongly opposed it. So, but there was basically very few communication between these two actors. So, and in this year, 2023, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait expressed its will to develop the Al-Dorra gas field in April, and that also caused some irritation from Iranian side. But the things has changed more after Iran expressed its will to start drilling on this energy field. In the Iranian view, they call this field as a Arash gas field. So, and the national Iranian oil companies expressed its will to drilling it. So, but Saudi Arabia and Kuwait are opposed to this intention, And for example, Saudi, the officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that this field resources are solely belongs to Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. And Kuwait also said that Kuwait and Saudi Arabia has a exclusive right to develop these resources. And Kuwait also insist or demand Iranians that we should decide the maritime borders, because we don't, Kuwait and Iran do not have the decided the maritime border yet. So that is the main reason that both sides insist these resources. So Kuwait said that we should decide the maritime border, but for but Iran and South Kuwait has some history that they discuss about the maritime border, but they never reach agreement on that. So because both sides see that more kind of the more, how can I say, expansionist view, or they have they want to include these resources inside their borders. So there have been never have an agreement. And in recently, Iran even asked to Kuwait foreign minister to visit Iran to talk about this issue, but Kuwait feel very few chance of success of the discussion with Iranian side. So far, Kuwait foreign minister have not visited Iran yet. So things kind of the conflict situation remain until now. So that is a brief history of this Al-Dorra conflict. So as I said, basically this conflict is a conflict of the how they define their maritime border. And for Saudi Arabia and Kuwaiti side, 100% of resources are inside their territory. But for Iranian side, they sometimes said that 40% of the resources belongs to their maritime territory, or some academics also imply that 30% could be belongs to Iranian side, but Saudi or Kuwait side do not admit such such analysis. So okay, and how do this dispute could affect the current proceedings of the peace, de-escalation of the conflict, or between Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, or more broader context? I think that probably if I see the recent development, especially between Saudi Arabia and Iran, this Al-Dorra field dispute could not affect so much for the overall process of the de-escalation. This is my idea. For example, recently, Iranian foreign ministers visited Saudi Arabia, and also Saudi Crown Prince invited him to his place and meet directly with foreign minister. So that shows Saudi side will to want to have a better relations with Iran. And also very recently, I think this week, Saudi Arabia dispatched the new ambassador to Iran, uneasy. So this also shows that um, we are on the track to the de-escalation. So of course, this Al-Dorra dispute is a conflict point, but it doesn't affect so significantly to the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And another question is that how do this Al-Dorra dispute could affect the ongoing diversification of by the GCC countries? I mean the energy transition or decarbonization process. This is also interesting point, but I think that the amount of the natural gas we can have from this Al-Dorra gas field is actually not so much, actually, if we compare to other giant gas field like South Pulse gas field in Iran, or North Field gas field, Qatari side, it is said. So, and of course, for Kuwait, this is relatively important. Al-Dorra gas field is because, as some of you might know, Kuwait is using natural gas for electricity generation, but the amount of the natural gas Kuwait can use from their domestic resources is relatively limited. They particularly get natural gas from the associated gas with oil production, but that amount is not enough. So there, there is a creative situation that they want to have more natural gas. So, and probably if Kuwait can develop Al-Dorra gas field, maybe this field can provide like a 10 or 15% of the demand of Kuwait natural gas demand. So it is important. But for Iranian and Saudi Arabia, much larger countries perspective, probably amount of the this gas field is relatively a small amount, I think. But it is true that if this gas can be used by Kuwaiti side, it will Kuwait can use that gas for power generation. So probably that will in that situation Kuwait feel less urgency to develop the, for example, renewable energy or other energy transitional effort could be less important if Kuwait can get enough amount of Al-Dorra gas field. But as I say again, even in Kuwait, the amount of Al-Dorra gas field is not so many. So the effect of the Al-Dorra natural gas to Kuwaiti decarbonization effort is relatively limited, I think, in my view. Okay, and another point I want to touch upon is, so how do this conflict affect the Iranian effort to legitimize itself in the regional affairs? That is another question. And I think that there might be effect to some extent to Iranians, legitimization effort, I think. But there is already many records that Iran insist it shows do not how can I say uh, Iran maintains their position, for example, in the island issue with United Arab Emirates. Iran has a very strong position, and so even if Iran shows a hardline position on Al-Dorra oil field too, that doesn't, change the overall um, view from the Middle Eastern countries towards Iran, because probably many surrounding countries, surrounding Arab Gulf states, get used to Iranians, position. So probably they take it natural that Iran insists their territory are, uh, position. So it doesn't change the course of the Gulf Arab countries' perception of Iran so much. That's my view. And finally, I want to say some words about the future prospect about Iran-GCC relations, and also future prospect of the Al-Dorra dispute. And so probably this is very hard to overcome this issue because the both sides have a totally conflicting opinion about who gets these resources, and I couldn't see any, soft position in each side to negotiate this issue. So probably I cannot imagine so much that the idea that, for example, joint development of this gas field is the chance of that kind of joint development is are not so high, in my opinion. So, but if I consider about the Kuwaiti demands for natural gas, probably Kuwait want to develop this gas field in some times, and to 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 countermeasure, probably Iran also want to develop this field. So this is one possibility that both sides separately try to develop this um, uh, gas field is one possibility, I think. And they conflict in the diplomatic field, but in the in the drilling process, separate drilling is going is also one possibility I can foresee. And more general relationship between Iran and GCC, as I said, probably this issue is relatively minor if I consider about the especially Saudi-Iranian issues, because the main most important issue between Saudi Arabia and Iran is Yemen issue. Um, Saudi Arabia spend uh, a lot of money and a lot of efforts to retreat from the a lot of efforts to retreat from the Yemeni operation, but Iranian support is essential for for the success of this retreatment. So probably Yemen, compared to the Yemen issue, this Al-Dorra conflict has a small meaning. So so in other words, for Saudi Arabia's perspective, they think that even though there is some conflict between Iran and Saudi and Kuwait about over the this Al-Dorra gas field, Saudi Arabia do not so much care about it and proceed to the de-escalation process with Iran because Saudi Arabia uh, wants to stop Iranian arms shipping to Yemeni Houthi militia. That's the most important point. So uh, probably they do not think that uh, probably in the top level probably neglect this issue. So, but I don't want to say that this doesn't mean that there is a 0% that Al-Dorra dispute could affect the Iranian-Saudi relations at all. Of course, there is a possibility that this dispute could lead up to the, bilateral escalation of the conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran. That would be possible. But probably if such kind of, development has occurred in Saudi Arabia's perspective, probably Saudi Arabia decided not to, assert its position more, uh, uh, probably lower their position, I think, and do not express its intention to drilling the Al-Dorra dispute. So probably Saudi Arabia want to control the Al-Dorra disputes conflict with Iran. So most important things for Saudi right now is to de-escalate the conflict in Iran. So so probably Al-Dorra conflict can be controlled by Saudi efforts by not to assert strongly its position. So, and in some cases, probably there is a possibility that Saudi Arabia ask Kuwait not to, uh, proceed to the drilling process because it could irritate Iranian side. So that kind of the suggestion from Saudi side to Kuwait could also be considered, could be expected, I think. So yeah, overall perspective of the Saudi-Iranian relation is what I said right now. Okay, and finally, if I add some words about the Western and Chinese perspectives, as you request me to say something, so probably, of course, Al-Dorra energy field is one of the important potential resource bases in the Persian or Arabian Gulf. But as I say before, the amount of this Al-Dorra field is very small. And also, as I said, probably Saudi Arabia do not want to make this issue to the escalating factor between conflict between Saudi-Iranian issues. So probably Saudi Arabia restrict itself or Kuwait to de-escalate this issue. So if that kind of effort succeed, maybe this Al-Dorra issue could not be a, very hard conflict point between Iran and Saudi Arabia. So, for example, at the very hard time between Saudi Arabia and Iran was in 2019 that the Saudi oil facility was attacked and some oil tanker was also attacked at that time. But Saudi Arabia do not want to have that experience again. So, and Saudi now has the power or its will to control such a conflict. So maybe I hope that this Al-Dorra issue do not have a very big negative impact on the oil flows from this Persian Gulf to the world. So basically, I think Western or Chinese or Japanese or other oil importing countries, depending on the energy flow from this region, uh, do not have a very big sense that there would be a great threat to oil flow or gas flow um, due to this Al-Dorra field conflict. So basically, so far, there would be a small possibility that Al-Dorra dispute could lead up to a disruption, fear of the oil and gas flow to the importing countries. Yes, that is my very, tentative answers and a brief lecture on this Al-Dorra dispute. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Kondo, for a wonderful presentation. We knew very little about this incident, and I have just a couple of questions in my mind regarding, you have graded this conflict as a low intensity conflict, but
Mhm,
all the parties are maintaining their hard line, not hard line, but they are just having their own stated position.
mhm,
So if as you said that Iran takes a hardline approach, then the situation will be changed, and the scenario in the Gulf region and other areas will be very much in distrust. So, do you think that Iran can take or follow some kind of hardline approach towards this conflict?
mhm. Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I'm not the specialist on the Iranian foreign policy, but so this is just my guess. But I think that yes, there would be a possibility that Iran will take a hardline position on this issue, um, especially if the Kuwait or Saudi Arabia decided to drilling this gas field, there would be a possibilities. Um, so far, the what Iranian side only, I think, in my understanding, national Iranian oil company or business uh, um, company is the main actor who insists on this issue. So relatively low, profile. It's not the top agenda by the, for example, on the supreme leaders do not mention, in my understanding, this issue. So relatively low agenda now. So, but there, yeah, there would be some some possibilities that this issue could be raised as a high agenda, especially after Kuwait start its exploration. But I think that um, on the other hand, Iran also has the intention that they want to promote de-escalation process, especially with Saudi Arabia. I really remember that before this year's March, China brokered Saudi-Iranian agreement, I saw many times that Iranian side is more positive towards um, uh, de-escalation with Saudi Arabia, because the Iranian, for Iranians, their relationship with Western countries or is very bad due to the, of course, nuclear problem. So, um, so for them, by having Saudi Arabia uh, to have a normalized relationship, they think that they can expand their relationship to other countries. So for their perspectives, the de-escalation, um, de-escalating the conflict with Saudi Arabia is also very important. So if I think about that point, probably raising this issue in the top agenda uh, would be not so good idea for um, Iran too. So that's why probably Iran also want to keep this issue to a certain level that do not reach to the top level, conflict agenda. Yes, so that is my answer.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank you. I just want to mention here that the floor is open for the question. If anybody has any question, you can just write in the chat box. I have already one question in the chat box from Arhama Siddiq. So I just come to that question. First, I just wanted to know that what I could understand that this issue is basically more between Iran and Kuwait. And I just want to know what are the Saudi Arabia's stakes in this project?
Mhm. Thank you, thank you. Yes, yeah, as you said, this is basically the Iranian and Kuwaiti issue. But at the same time, this is a, you know, this oil gas field is situated mainly between Kuwait and Iran. So that's the reason this conflict is between these two countries. But um, last year, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait agreed that all the resources belongs to neutral area between Saudi Arabia and Kuwait uh, could be diverted, divided between Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. So, of course, that is a not new principle. This is a old principle between Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. So this principle has more than half century, I think. But they reaffirm that principle last year, and that principle could be applied to the offshore Al-Dorra gas field. They affirmed. So after that, Saudi Arabia thinks that this gas field, half of this gas field resources could be beneficial to Saudi Arabia. So that's the reason why Saudi Arabia also have a interest on this issue.
Okay, thank you very much. I just read the question in the chat panel.
Okay.
Now, what are your views on the corridor rail road deal, which is going to be signed in the G20 meet in
Uh,
India between Saudi and UAE, India and the USA? So, how do you think this will affect Iran?
okay, thank you very much. Yes, this is very new topic, right? I think I also did something about this news. I think that probably, of course, if um, this deal has been made between these countries, including Saudi, UAE, and India, and the United States, that would have the, probably some negative impact on Iran, I think, because that it's bypassed the Iranian territory, I think, in my understanding, probably, of course, um, railway will be built between UAE, Saudi, and some East Arabian country like I don't know, Jordan or somewhere. Probably that could be included the Israel, I think. But for the eastern side, from UAE, ship lane could connect the UAE and India, I think. And yeah, it is true that still all the ships have to go through the Strait of Hormuz. So still Iranian influence is there. But probably for US intention is to make the Iranian influence away from this, railway connectivity. So probably US will think about the very uh, wise way. Probably I don't know the concrete idea, but probably adding the, for example, to 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 make Oman to included in this plan could be a one solution, I think. And also probably, there is also UAE's territory. Some of the territory could bypass the Strait of Hormuz, as some of you have, all of you have noticed. So maybe connecting those areas of the UAE, which faces the Oman Gulf, that could bypass the Strait of Hormuz. So if that happened, maybe this deal could have some small impact on the Iranian, the power projection to the region, I think.
Well taken. So, I just you just mentioned in your presentation that Japan has invested in this Al-DORA project. So, I just wanted to know about what the Japanese government's stance over this dispute.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Actually, for Japanese perspective, this issue is still very minor issue so far, I think. Yeah, it is true that the Japanese company has firstly found this field. And basically, as you may know, this area, neutral area between Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, Arabian oil company, Japanese company that is operating it for a long time, but their operation has expired in 2000 in Saudi territory and Saudi side of the neutral territory, and 2003, I think, in the Kuwaiti part of the neutral territory. So after that, Japan do not have any interest on this area. So that will cause that the Japanese less interest on the overall situation of Al-Dorra dispute. But I also believe that Japan also want to keep this conflict calm and do not affect the current, de-escalation process between Iran and Saudi Arabia. So that's probably Japanese basic position to calm the situation is the best. Yeah, I think.
Thank you very much. What I could further understand what you mentioned in your presentation, that the Saudi Arabia is just playing a role as a neutralizing role in this whole dispute, and we have China on the other hand. So these two major countries, in the presence of major countries like China and Saudi Arabia. So I don't think so. This conflict is going to be just out of the hands, and it's going to disrupt the peace process or the approachment going on between and going on in this region. So I totally agree with you that this kind of a things is not possible.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any question more? If anybody wants to ask, you can just raise hand and can take the mic and ask the question. So I don't think so there is any more questions. So Dr. Kondo, would you like to say some few concluding words?
Oh
Then I
yeah,
just
yeah. Thank you so much. This is great pleasure to express my brief view on the Al-DORA dispute, and this is a very great opportunity. I found very few opportunities that to focus on this issue. So this is also great effort, I think. So this was very great honor to be part of this project. So thank you very much, Imran, and everyone
thank
at
you.
your
Thank you very
institute.
much. I would like to just mention one more thing that recently that Arhama Siddiqa, I think from Strategic Institute, has just asked a question which is very important. I think which needs to be further elaborated. Maybe next time we will discuss on this topic or this rail project that's going to
Mhm.
be signed
Okay.
between the India and other countries. So
Mhm.
next time
Mhm.
we would again invite you to just discuss some
Ah,
other important
uh,
topics.
thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
That's my
Kondo.
honor.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
much.
Thank
Thank you so much. See
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.